If you want to save time on your next lob haircut, stick around. I'm going to show you a couple tips. So this is Kayla. As you can see, she has finer hair texture, and we're going to be actually working with her texture, and I'm going to be doing a dry cut using the DryCutPRO Shears by Olivia Garden. These are designed to go on the hair dry because it actually pushes the hair out. And then I'm going to use the FineCutPROs for detail work. So we're going to start out with the DryCutPROs, and because I want to strengthen the edges of her lob, I actually want to do this standing up, and I'm going to start out with the length first and then go into adding texture. So I'm going to turn Kayla's head to the side here. I'm starting my first section right on top of the ear. I'm going to move everything in the front forward, everything else gets pushed back. I'm actually going to be using my DryCutPROs to cut directly on top of my hand. So I'm going to hold everything in place here, using the finer part of my comb. I'm using the CarbonLite by Olivia Garden, so I'm going to use the finer tooth of the comb for this, drawing everything straight down, and I'm cutting right on top of my fingers so I have a nice even tension. I'm not pulling the hair, I'm just holding it into place. So now I have a nice blunt line. I'm going to do the other side as well before I move into the back part of the cut. Okay, now we're going to check for balance, and then I'll go to the back. So it looks like we need to take a little bit more length off of this side. Now I'm going to connect the 2 points together. So I'm going to make sure that I keep Kayla's head up first before I drop it down. So I'm going to clean everything up afterward. I'm going to start out with one side first and then connect everything through. All this stuff I'm going to clean up now, so I'm going to have Kayla tip her chin down, and I'm going to clean everything up underneath. This is where I'm going to cut as close to the body as possible, so I'm going to hold everything straight down, and I'm going to follow my outline. A little tip to keep in mind is when you come to the sides, you want to make sure you draw everything straight to the back, so you're squaring that out. You don't want to round the corners here. If I were to, instead of cutting it on the back of Kayla and I rounded it out to the sides, I would end up cutting that part too short. So it's really important that when you're doing this part, you're cutting it straight back, you're squaring everything off, and your body also remains square. What I also like about cutting dry is that even though it cuts it blunt, it still has a nice soft edge to it. So when Kayla looks up here, you can see that there is a blunt style, but it's slightly soft edges because it's been beveled. There's one last thing I want to check through here. So I'm actually going to turn Kayla's head to the side, and you can actually slightly tilt it backwards as well to make sure that you're cutting as close to the body as possible. So I'm going to bring everything from the back to the side, since that's where we started. And if there's anything I need to clean up underneath, I'll go ahead and do that now. There was barely anything on that side. I'm going to check the other side before I go into the texture part. You can see right there's a little bit to clean up on that side. Now that we have a nice blunt square shape and almost like a blank canvas to start with, I'm going to actually go into the fringe first. I really want to keep this length, but I want to create a little bit more shape and movement. So I am going to over direct some of this hair forward. And the best way of determining this is actually by bringing it, I kind of use the chair as a way to decide how I'm going to take this angle. So I'm going to bring it right over the eye, and push this forward through here, and where it wants to split is kind of where I'm actually going to be starting that. So this is a bit more of an organic approach to cutting that fringe. Same thing here. I'm going to bring everything to the side, over the ear, push it up, and it splits on its own. So now we're ready for the fringe. I'm going to bring everything forward, and I'm actually just holding everything in my hand right over the lip. I'm going to start out by opening the dry cut shear, and I'm cutting right above the lip, and I'm going to just walk everything straight out. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Bring everything forward, right over the eye. You're aiming toward the arm of the chair, using the lip as a guide, and then we're going to just walk everything straight out. Now I'm going to check that for balance before I move into the rest of the cut. I'm going to use this as a guide, so I'm going to actually start with this. So I'm going to bring everything straight up. You can see the shape started here because it's short to long, so I'm actually just going to be following my guide. I'm going to bring everything straight up, right through here, and I'm going to finish all the way up through here. Now we're actually going to bridge between the top layer and the rest of the length, but I want to keep in mind that it's really important that we keep length through the bottom. I don't want this to get too textured looking. So I'm actually going to bring everything from the bottom to the top. So I'm over directing everything straight up, and the length just fell out for me. That is her layer through there, and I'm going to point cut using the DryCutPROs. And I'm really going for a very soft look. So again, I'm going to bring everything straight up, bridge between those layers and her length, cutting short to long, point cutting everything. Again, you want to make sure this is not too perfect, because the whole purpose of this is to create a very soft transition between that top layer and her length. So I'm going to repeat the exact same step from the front as to the back. So I'm going to bring everything in a vertical section. You can take each section about 2 finger widths wide, depending on the density. With Kayla's texture, because it's finer, I can get away with taking a slightly larger section. If you have coarser hair texture, then you definitely want to take a slightly smaller section. As you can see, Kayla's hair is starting to take shape now, so I'm just going to use the FineCutPROs to go through a little bit more detail work. I'm going to go through and round this shape out a little bit more, so I'm actually going to take everything right above the ear here. I'm leaving everything out in the front. Right above the ear, I'm going to bring everything straight out, and I'm going into this bulkiest piece here. This is her length. That's the transition. So I'm going to use the FineCutPROs to transition those pieces there. And when you drop it down, you can see that it actually removes a little bit of weight. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna do the same thing through the back because I don't want this to feel quite so connected. I wanna add a little bit more movement and disconnection, so that way when we add some curls or some waves into Kayla's hair, it will really help with elevating that. So again, I'm going to take everything straight out, You can see there's not much to do here. This is the beveled side, so I'm gonna go in and soften through here. And there you have it, our soft textured lob. As you can see, you could do this in literally 10 minutes. I'm gonna add some wave into it and I'm gonna show you everything when we're all done. All right, so we just put a little bit of a bend in this lob, and as you can see, the texture really pops out when we do that. Try this on your own. You can find more information in the show notes below on all the tools that we used. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'll see you next time.